Good morning. It's Saturday. Thank you for watching PAULY'S Auto. Welcome back. Today, I wanted to make a follow-up video to the 2014 Chevy Equinox with a 2.4 liter that had multiple faults with the StabiliTrak. And if you haven't seen part one, please check it out. I'll put a link in the description below to it. The video is pretty rough, guys, because I was at work. When I'm at home, I can take my time and actually make video content that's, I don't know, a little better as far as, explaining things and my thought processes. Before I start that, however, what I wanted to talk about was two channels out on YouTube that deserve credit because they're producing just amazing content. And these guys are just awesome. So with that being said, the first one is, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and if I'm not, I apologize to him. It's McCuistian, and I will put links to their channels below. McCuistian is a older Master Tech, L1 Master Tech, I believe, and he is an instructor at, I believe, a tech school, but I could be wrong. He may be a high school auto tech teacher, but it really doesn't matter. His content is super awesome. He has great stories. He's a southern guy, so his accent's a little tough to follow at times, but I kind of dig that. But it's just really awesome to, it's just so cool to hear stories from guys that have been doing this for a long time, and you can learn a lot from them. And they're hard to find in this industry, so when you find them, on YouTube or wherever, it's important to listen to what they have to say because they can teach you stuff, guys. They've taught me a lot, so I wanted to give him a shout out because I think his channel is underrated for what it is. And I apologize for the background noise. My daughter's watching Thomas the Train and some other kids shows, so you might hear some Barney and all that, but nevertheless, it's real. It's real on a Saturday. But, yeah, the other channel I wanted to talk about was Super Mario Diagnostics. Now, Mario is a younger guy. I have a lot in common with him, ironically, as far as stories go. But the guy is super smart, and he does just awesome videos, great editing, and just deserves credit because his channel is just superb. It really is. And if you haven't checked these channels out, you need to do that. So like I said, I'll put their links in the description below. Check out Super Mario Diagnostics. The guy is really cool. He will help you out if you have problems. He puts a lot of time and effort into what he's doing. So he deserves credit where credit is due. And then, like I said, McCuistian, you can't get these old timers in the field. They're limited. Time is limited, so take advantage of it. Check them out, support them, like their videos. And with that being said, let's get back on to this 2014 Chevy Equinox, and we'll start going over this. Now, I've laid out my diagnostic process on this one a little bit more in detail for you. So this may be dry to some of you, but if you're a tech in the field trying to learn, this is, to me, this would be important stuff to learn. It will help you out. It certainly has helped me out. So I just want to share that with you guys. And I will discuss how this CAN bus works to the best of my knowledge. I could be wrong, and if I am, please correct me. Maybe there's guys out there that stumble across this video that are, hey, guy, you don't know what you're talking about. Great. Tell me why I don't know what I'm talking about and share with others so I can learn too. But with that being said, let's get right into it, and we'll start talking about this issue, and I'll kind of go through my thought process on it and how I came to the conclusion and fix this vehicle. All right? All right, so one of the first things to do with any diagnosis is to get a plan of action. Now, this kind of comes automatic with time, but to me, obviously you want to verify the concern of the customer, and there is a diagnostic process. I'm not going to cover that in too much depth, guys, but what I wanted to do is just kind of give you an idea of my thought process. Now, step one, I always ask myself, what do we know? What do we know? What do I know at this time? Well, on this particular make and model with this issue, I knew that the steering wheel angle sensor module and the multi-axis acceleration sensor modules were not communicating with the scanner, and that the electronic brake control module and the rear diff clutch module, DTCs, were showing this to be the case, okay? So what I want to do is I want to show you the codes again, just for review. What we had in this one were a lot of communication errors, okay? A lot of CAN bus communication errors. And these can be misleading, especially if you're, somewhat new to these types of diagnostics. You look at these codes and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. Well, that's what I'm hopefully going to answer in this video, or at least give you some insight as to how to approach these. Now, the first thing I do is I verify the complaint, which we did, and it was happening right now. And what I did is I hooked my scan tool to it, I identified the vehicle, and then I did a complete code scan. Now, the reason I do complete code scans on vehicles is because I want to get a picture of everything that's going on in every system, because sometimes it tells a story, and in this case it did tell a story. So if we look, the electronic brake control module, or the ABS module if you will, was throwing these codes, okay? Invalid data received from the steering wheel angle sensor module, steering position signal calibration, data not programmed, lost comms with the multi-axis acceleration sensor module, control module comm chassis, expansion CAN bus off, lost comms with the steering wheel angle sensor. And then moving on to the rear diff clutch module, we can see we have a lost comms with the multi-axis acceleration sensor module, lost comms with the steering wheel angle sensor module, CAN bus comm faults. The steering wheel angle sensor module was also throwing a CAN bus comm fault as well. So all these codes tell us a story, all right? And what it's telling me is there's a communication problem. Now, when it comes to CAN bus, it's very important for you to understand that it's how they talk to one another, and that's going to be key. But if we look at these codes, and we'll get into this a little bit more in depth, but everything is, these modules are telling on one another, and they're saying that, hey, we're not able to communicate properly over this CAN bus, and here is some codes to give you some direction as to where to go. So let's flip this over. We'll go to the next thing we know, okay? All right, so the next thing we know is that we had when I opened the hood, is I could smell a strong odor of rodents under the hood near the the electronic brake control module. So near that module, I could smell rodents, and you should know that smell, because rodent feces or whatever, it just stinks, okay? When I smell rodents, I immediately think in my head, geez, what do they chew into, and maybe that's the reason I have these fault codes, okay? So that's an important thing. Strong odor of rodents under the hood near the electronic brake control module. Another thing we knew going into this was a couple of the DTCs were current, meaning that the problem was happening right now, and that's another thing to pay attention to. And historical DTCs were showing we have a CAN bus issue with multiple modules. So knowing what's current happening right now and knowing what's historical kind of tells the story, right? Like we were talking about. The other thing is the steering wheel angle sensor module was reporting or had a history DTC of U0073 for a CAN bus comm issue. But I can't even read my own writing. We couldn't access the steering angle sensor module data display and no comm, WTF, okay? I'm not going to say that, but you know what that means. But if you look at the back, okay, so that U0073 All right, so here is the where is that 7.3? Right here. Steering wheel anger sensor module. So it's reporting that it has a CAN bus comm fault in the historical, but then when I try to go into it, into its separate menu on the scan tool itself, I can't communicate with it. Okay, now first thought is well, I got a bad steering wheel angle sensor module. That might not always be the case, guys. You have to know how these things communicate to that data link connector or the DLC for the scan tool in order for you to make that determination. So this steering wheel angle sensor, there was nothing wrong with it, but I still couldn't communicate with it. The other thing I couldn't communicate with was the multi-axis acceleration sensor module, okay? I went into its menu, both menus, and I was able to get in there, but when I clicked data display, I got nothing. It wouldn't talk to me. So that's where looking at the wiring schematic for the CAN bus comes in. Because now what we can do is we can map out how these things talk on the network and determine where I'm hooked in at the DLC, why I'm not able to communicate with them with the scan tool. And that's key. That is key, guys. And like I said, I'm sorry this is going to be lengthy, but that's kind of the goal of this video, is to give you an idea of my thought process so that you, as a diagnostic guy or whatever, new to the field, can understand just how important it is to think about these things prior to touching harnesses, prior to wiggling wires, okay? All right, so let's keep moving on. All right, so the next thing you kind of want to think about here is where do we go from here? We know all this stuff, but where do we go from here? Well, one of the things that I failed to do actually on this diagnosis, but I caught it, after the fact, kind of in between making that video, is are there any TSBs related to this? When you have a lot of CAN bus problems, look up your TSBs, or any problem really. You should be checking your TSBs. I know that gets beat to death, and we tend to forget. We get caught in the moment, and in fact, there was a TSB explaining this issue under the ABS with that reference number in ProDemand, dated 30 April of 2015. So somebody has already been down this route, and believe it or not, this TSB was really awesome. It had pictures showing where to check the harness for rodent damage. I had said it rubbed through on the harness. It didn't rub through, guys. It was actually rodent damage. So again, getting back to that strong odor of rodents under the hood near the electronic brake control module, that was key. That was key. So if I checked this TSB, how much time would I have saved? A lot, right? And luckily, I found this TSB. I had to search for it quite extensively, and sometimes you'll have to do that. But it's important to do that, guys. It's important because a lot of times there's good stuff in there. And in there, it told me to inspect that harness and see if rodents had chewed in to the harness. And sure enough, that's what I found right above the differential clutch module there. So that's something to think about. Another thing to think about where we're going to go is wiring diagram, computer data lines. You want to analyze how the modules communicate, and I already touched on that, and get a plan of attack before touching wires or modules. All right, I can't stress that enough. Do not touch stuff until you understand how the system works, because you start wiggling stuff, you might inadvertently fix something, and now good luck finding it. All right. And then, of course, you want to test the circuit signal integrity, which I did. But we'll get to those in a second here. But let's go over this wiring diagram and how this thing talks so I can give you guys a good understanding of, with this particular make and model, if you're running into this issue, just how it communicates so that you can properly scope it and know exactly what you're looking at and how to test it, okay? Okay, so getting at it. Getting into how these things talk. Now, one of the key things to remember is what we want to do is look at our code list. So we want to look at our entire code list and get an idea of where we want to go. We know we have a CAN bus problem. We know we have a communication problem on the network. So no matter what, we need to get a scope on the CAN high and CAN low and see what it looks like, okay? But where do we go for that? Now, some guys will say, well, just go to your DLC. You can do that, guys. You could do that. I chose to go to the easiest thing, okay? So what I do is I look at who is having the issue. Who on here is getting reported the most that's having the issue. Now, there's a couple modules on this network that are reporting or are getting told on, so to speak, several times. One of them is our steering wheel angle sensor module, okay? And the other one is this multi-axis acceleration sensor module. So the two that I want to look at, I want to go directly to, if possible, is those, okay? In my opinion. Now, other guys might disagree with that, and that's fine. But for me, I'm going to those two, because those two seem to be reporting the most, and those two are the two that I can't communicate with the scan tool, okay? Key. That's key. So, what I did is I went in to ProDemand, and I use ProDemand, guys. You might use another system, doesn't matter. They're all pretty much the same. They all have their ups and downs, and they all will get you what you need to get. Sometimes you have to outsource if wiring diagrams are wrong, whatever. I'm not getting into that in this video. What I'm getting at is steering wheel angle sensor module and the multi-axis acceleration module are the two that are mentioned the most, and they're the two that are having problems, and I can't communicate with the scan tool. So, where do they live, and how easy are they to get to? That's key. So the ones that were the easiest to get to were the one that was the easiest to get to was the steering wheel angle sensor module versus the multi-axis acceleration module, because the multi-axis acceleration module lives under the center console. Now, in order to test there, you're going to have to pull that whole center console. So you have to keep that in mind. Find out where they live, who's the easiest to get to, and go there first, okay? All right, so I might have to make a part 3 to this, guys, because this video is getting a little long. And I'm going to do that, I think, because getting into how these talk is going to be lengthy. So bear with me. Please watch part 3 so you guys can understand. But before I do that, I pulled up what I did, is I pulled up the computer data line circuit. Now, that's what you want to go to when you have CAN bus problems. So I pulled up the computer data line circuit, and I'm looking for the modules that are key players in all these fault codes, okay? And the modules I'm concerned about are the steering wheel angle sensor module, the rear diff clutch module, and the electronic brake control module, all right? And if you look, like I said in my original video, on this diagram we have the electronic brake control module, we have the rear differential clutch module, we have the multi-axis acceleration sensor module, and then we have our steering wheel angle sensor module. So all of our players are on this diagram. This is where we want to be. Okay. Now, before I get into detail as to interpreting the diagram and how it talks, I just wanted to clarify that I'm going to make a part 3, and the only reason for that is because of length of video, guys. I like to keep my videos under 20 minutes, and we're getting close to that mark. I think we're at 19 minutes. So I apologize. I know this is lengthy, but I think this is key to understanding how to diagnose these systems correctly. So the last part to this video will be describing how this system works, how to identify what system you're working with, and how I came to the conclusion and found outside of the TSB, because of course that's a huge factor, but I think there can be some learning here. So we'll get into the diagram on part 3. I just wanted to let you guys know that this is going to be lengthy, and that is what I'm going for here. I'm trying to help you guys out and give you what I know and what I did. So anyways, part 3 coming up. stay tuned. Please watch. Please subscribe. Please hit the like and unlike button. Doesn't matter which one. Just, help me out here. Let me know what I'm doing good. Let me know what I'm doing bad, okay? That's all I'm asking for. And also, make sure you check out those 2 channels I mentioned because you will not be disappointed. So check the description out, and thanks for watching, guys.